welcome to today's portrait. I've got a portrait that I've done before, but we're going out of mind. If you're new here and you're enjoying these paintings, I would just ask you consider subscribing, and also if you do, hit that notifications bell so you get updated anytime I post new videos or even if I go live on this channel. Now, with this particular painting, it's a style that I call out of mind. It's a portrait that I've done many times, but now I'm wondering what's going on inside that portrait. So that's the inspiration for today's portrait. Let's get into it. Let's go. All right, so we've got the first color on, dab off a little bit of that excess paint, and then go right into the canvas. So usually when I start these paintings, I'm always trying to start with a wide foot stance. Now, why does my foot stance have anything to do with painting? And it has to do with the speed or pace that I'm painting at. So keeping my wide stance helps me make a quick decision to go get a color when I need to. And also when I'm in the studio painting, I'm sort of going through the muscle memory of what I would do in a normal life scenario. So building up that muscle memory, how to move, how to stand, my posture. You also notice that the painting is always at a certain height. It's not just for any random reason or just because. It's so that the height that I have it at is so that I'm standing up straight as I'm painting as well. The goal is that if I'm standing up straight, I can just present better to the audience. So let's go ahead and go back, get some paint. We're starting with the darker skin tone. Now, when you start, you can really start with anything. I always like to start sometimes with some sort of like undertone. Now, the undertone is a color that will come through later on. You'll see it as you start to add the colors on top, you'll still see that color there. So with that said, let's actually add some of the undertone. I'm gonna use some cool colors, some purple and blue. Imagine using your undertone or these cool colors as like a rough sketch. So we're gonna use this to sort of block in some different parts of the canvas. When you start the images, don't try to make it a masterpiece right away. Block it in. Block it in using these super broad strokes, just one brush stroke at a time. I know you see me using both hands in this scenario. Don't think you have to. This is just what works for me. I always say, take the time you need to create. Step back from your painting if you need to, which I will still do time to time, even though I'm moving very fast. Just to make sure I'm still, I still have to create a quality portrait throughout this process. So I'm using these colors, these cool colors right now, to block in the image. They're not the final colors, but you'll be able to see them the more that I add on top of this. This also lets me make all my mistakes right now. This is the moment to make the mistakes. Your first layer. Get it on there, because the beauty of paint is when you make a mistake, not if, but when you make the mistake, it'll dry and then you just paint right over it. So be free right now. You should always be free when you're creating, but even more so, just be free right now. Lock it in. I have a pretty clear idea of what I want to do. I've got a plan, but with art, you still never know what's going to happen. And you have to just remain open to the process. So I'm curious if those of you that are watching right now, if you can guess what it is, you can just let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I just hope you're enjoying the process. Hope you're enjoying just being entertained by the art process. I definitely am always entertained, a little biased. But growing up, I used to watch a lot of Bob Ross. I just painted his portrait last week since the filming of this video. right, we're just dabbing on some colors. I'm sure you can see what's happening, what's coming to life. I'm gonna go a little darker in my cool colors, putting on this first layer that is the undertones. Or you can say the underpainting, whatever it is, this is our first layer. We should rename this part the freedom layer. You have to be just loose and free. Now, when you're sketching your paintings out or anything, you have to be free in your sketch because your sketch becomes your blueprint. It becomes what you end up following. So the more free I can be in this moment, as I add the layers on top, those are gonna reflect the movement that I'm doing now. And do me a huge favor, if you're watching this and you're an artist or you're a creator and you're watching this, maybe looking for some inspiration, just drop a paint emoji in the comments, just so not only I know you're an artist, but also the people that are watching right now from all over the world, they'll know that you're representing for the artists right now. All right, let's step up in these colors. So I appreciate all of you, especially the artists who are taking the time to watch this. And I say the artists specifically, and I appreciate everyone, but the artists, if you're watching this, it's because you're open to learning. And that is the only absolute guarantee that you're gonna grow in your art career, is if you are open to learning. I didn't go to art school. I actually barely made it out of high school, if that. So I'm telling you this from the experience of having to, actually not going to school after high school, but still having to learn and having a thirst to learn when I wasn't supposed to, when I didn't have to. It's required. It's required for growth or success in your art. So I'm using different colors right now to build up this portrait. As I do, I'm focusing on the value. So I'm thinking about light and shadow and trying to use the warm colors in areas that there would be more light. The cool colors in the background, the shadow. I know some of you, when you're painting, you're like, I did all this work. I don't want to go over it. I did so much and I worked so hard. I don't want to ruin it. You know, it is a risk to do that. It's a risk to do that first sketch and you're like, I'm done. I'm ready to walk away. But you need to see your art fully through. You need to see it to the very end. But I do love this process, just taking my time, putting down all the marks that I need to reference. This isn't magic, artists, it's art. So do whatever you need to do to make that happen. It's gonna be people that tell you there are rules to this, that there's rules to how you create your process. I got into art and I love art, and many artists will tell you that have been down the road. There are no rules. There are no rules to this. There are principles to help make great lasting art, but there are no rules in you choosing how you should create and what works best for you. All right, let's keep moving up in color. Just those broad strokes. I love there's a certain size painting that allows you to just use these larger brushes, and in one single stroke, you can define a piece of the face. And then that's when this comes in play. Say when you're making a full stroke across the portrait, when you apply pressure and let off and apply again, not only are you getting texture, but also you're showing depth in the portrait as well. So you go back and forth between adding pressure, like right here when I start, I'm adding pressure and taking off as I go away, adding pressure. And imagine the more pressure you add, it could be something that's more in the foreground, less pressure are objects in the background. And then it allows you to do less and less brush strokes as you're creating. I'm gonna leave some black behind on parts of the face. You may not be able to see it from where you are, but up close, I'm keeping that in mind because I do want there to be texture and wrinkles left behind, which is important, especially for this person, this character that I'm creating. I gotta wipe off some of the excess paint. Let's go back here. Just stepping up. I'm also starting to mix in some of those colors that were put on down below. So I'm getting a mixture of this skin tone and some of those cool colors, which makes a really cool look to it. Again, getting off that excess paint. But also when I do that, it's a great way to just like stay physical and active during that process. All right, again, let's add some of the skin tone, the texture, applying pressure, taking it off, just back and forth. Applying pressure, letting off, and then more pressure down towards the nose. Just creating more depth. We're gonna give a little bit of the indication, not too much skin tone over here, because I wanna imagine that the light is coming down from the top right. So there's gonna be less light on this side of the face. So we're gonna have fun with this. We're not gonna just make this a normal portrait. Let me add in one more color. We're gonna add in some white into this, into the highlights, because we're gonna start pulling up. You'll know what I mean by that in a little bit. So the first layer we did was the undertone, we'll call it the freedom layer. We're just being very loose with those colors. Next, we're adding those skin tones, kind of establishing more of the face. You can use other colors to do that, but I was using skin tones. Now, after we have established the foundation of the portrait, this is where you get to have fun. And this is where you start to add your artistic voice. This is the layer that goes up above and beyond this canvas. So let's start with some of the cool colors. I'm gonna add some cool colors here, and I'm just gonna pull it up, straight up and down. I'm gonna find another cool color that's on the canvas, and I'm gonna apply it, and I'm gonna cut through every other color that's in its path, because I want it to feel like it's being lifted up off the canvas and creating movement. Now, some of this stuff may not make any sense to you at all, but I'm just explaining to you my process and how I think during the creation of these paintings. Hoping that, one, you may try some of these techniques. Maybe you'll see this video later on YouTube or one of my other channels, and you want to give it a try. So when you do, I want to make sure that you have it from me firsthand, how I think when approaching it this way. So I'm very lightly going across the surface. Let me add some more lines here. Again, I'm going to pull it up just like that. Get some of that turquoise, and maybe we'll even start a trail leading up to a point and then continuing it. These lines also help you create balance on the surface as well. When the final picture is here, you'll have some indications of an even view for the audience or your viewer to look at. All right, we're gonna keep going with these movements. I'm gonna kind of meet up with a color here, pull it up off the canvas. So now we've got this motion going up. Let's do that also with some of the skin tones. So I'm gonna cut up. It's right through the eye, just like that. You gotta just be brave and go for it. I remember watching Bob Ross, and he would have this whole scene painted, and then he would put this like tree through the scene, and I'm like, what are you doing? It's beautiful. Don't mess it up. But you gotta take those risks. And also, say you do mess up. The point is to keep creating. The point is that you have so many paintings that you're learning from each one, each and every single one. And it's another opportunity to learn. So then you're forced to actually keep creating more. All right, let's get into this. We're gonna pull up these colors. We'll go back here to the turquoise. We'll pull it up, make contact, kind of move it around on the surface of the face so that it goes along with the contours, and then just pull it up right through. We'll start up top this time. Move it along with the contours of the hair or the texture, and then pull down. All right. Now we can do this also. Not only are we doing it with the skin tones, we're also gonna do it with the shadows. This is fun. This is, I think they call this term cutting in. So we're gonna do that with the black. I see some places where there should be a wrinkle, and I'm also gonna pull that up and add some more wrinkles in the eyes. It almost becomes like an impressionism portrait. It's like, it's a portrait, it's there, but it's the impression. When you come up close, it's just a bunch of color mixed together. The fun part's gonna come when we start adding the eyes. We haven't even added the hair yet. I mean, there's so much more to come. So I'm adding some textures too of the hair, the shadows that would go in the hair, using that black to define and also to shadow. There we go. Let's go ahead and head over to the left side of the face. We're gonna do the same thing, taking the black, and we're gonna be cutting into the portrait. So leaving behind some wrinkles, but also we're gonna pull up some wrinkles and then pull up. We're like cutting lines through the portrait. Now, the portraits that we create, it's blocks of information. It's shapes that add up together, that in our mind we put them together and we're like, that is so-and-so. That is whoever you would guess this would be. And so the artist, your job is to visually communicate these shapes in a particular way so that your viewer can connect with it. Now, how well you do that is dependent on how much effort you're willing to learn how to do even a portrait over and over again. Most artists do something one time and then they're done. I love animation because animation, you're required to, let me get a towel over here. I love animation because you're required to do 30 drawings per 1 second of film, which means you're drawing over and over and over again. It's ingrained in you to have to produce time and time again. And so I wish more artists had that discipline, to be able to just do something over and over again. I learned that when I was in dance, when I was doing dance. We would learn these dance routines and we would do them in repetition over and over again. So when I started doing paintings like this, it was easy to do something over and over again to get better at it, to improve. It's funny, I used to get these comments where I think they were trying to hate on me, but it didn't work because they were like, they saw me do a painting and they were like, I bet he's done that 100 times. And I'm like, you know, you're wrong. I actually did it about 150 times over and over again, and it was an excruciating process. But they were trying to say it in a way that like it was bad to prepare. It was bad to learn. Go learn, go prepare. Go keep improving. All right, so I think we're done with this layer right now. Let's go in, let's get rid of these brushes. And let's start, let me dry these off. And then we're gonna start adding the hair texture, so adding some lighter colors, lighter shades, just to indicate that his hair was gray. Feel free to hit that share button if you're enjoying this process. If you're learning something, the best way to support these is to just hit that share button. And I appreciate it. All right, let's keep going. Here we go. Let's go for the infamous mustache. Patient with this process. You have to take the risks so that later on when you want to approach a painting, you have another skill set that you tried and you know which ones won't work. It's very important to just make those mistakes, you know, try them out. All right, now is the fun part, adding that texture to the hair. So remember earlier we were pulling all that color up. Well, now it's gonna get all mixed in as we define the hair. Let's go back to the white. By the way, if you are new here, you can always watch the full series of these paintings on my YouTube channel. This is probably the first time I'll actually be talking through it step by step, unless you watch the live streams. The live streams, I always share my process. But if you ever want to just learn, and also I share information about just art marketing for those artists that want to just keep growing and learning. So my YouTube channel is at Garibaldi Arts. All right, let's keep going. All right, let me wash these brushes off real quick, and then we're gonna get some of those skin tones one more time. We're just gonna pull them up into the sky. My goal with this is to create some movement. You'll see, we're gonna do something fun with this middle section. There's a point to this, but you'll have to be patient to see. And if you do wait, I appreciate it. All right, that's cool. We're gonna leave it right there. Let's add a little bit of detail into the eyes. I'm gonna start a little darker than normal. I'm gonna go with this darker gray. And even let me get a little bit of off of that. So I'm gonna start just giving the indication that the eyes are there, just like that. I'll see you, Mason. By the way, the YouTube version of this will have different angles. So this one, I'm literally giving it to you live and uncut. There we go. We got a little bit of an indication to the eye. Now we're gonna make it a little bit lighter. I'm gonna go to the white, and I'm not gonna go full on white. I'm just gonna give a little highlight into just the white of the eye, just a little highlight, maybe a little catch right there of the light. All right, and then let's add a little color into the eyes. There we go, coming to life. All right, let's ditch those. Let's have a little fun with the spray paint. Actually, we'll do the spray paint last. So this middle section, we'll get to that in a second. So the middle section here, you'll see is blank right now, but we're gonna start filling it in with some objects, some shapes, some texture, some story. So bear with me as I do this. I'm gonna take my time just a little bit. We're gonna start with the dark green, and we're just gonna start blocking in some shapes. Now I'm doing this, just gonna put in a solid color of the shape, kind of just scribble it in so I can reference it later. I'm gonna go back on top of it with some other colors of spray paint that I'm gonna mist. And so this will help me see it and give it detail later on. I wanted to put these like kind of evil eyes up here. So I'm just gonna give a little, this is for later. Just adding in. I'm gonna go back to this dark green. Now, why I chose the green, I'm not sure. It's dark enough to hide, but also light enough to see. So we're just doing this quick, blocking it in. There we go. Got these like fish kind of swimming around in space. And of course, what is space if we don't have a spaceman? All right. So I'm just kind of squiggling in. We'll get the details in later. Just blocking in this figure real quick. Again, I just want to get the impression of it there. We're using this as a placeholder. So I'm going to go over this with some spray color, and I want to be able to see it later. So there we go. All right, I think that's enough for now. Now we can have some fun, and I've got some spray paint over here. So let's grab one of these. We're going to use pink and blue. Hopefully these are filled up enough. Let's do the blue coming up from the bottom, and then we'll meet in the middle with the pink. So let's just say there's like a little blue glowing light source on the bottom, and we're just gonna spray this. You can see I'm just kind of tapping it. Of course it gives out while I'm in the middle of it. Let's, no. All right, we'll just get another spray tip. So notice, I'm not just holding down on my spray can. I'm tapping it very lightly, thinking about it like it's just misting the top of the surface. And then I'm also pressing less and less as I move up higher in a steady pace, so that it's more concentrated on the bottom and it's less concentrated at the top. Just really giving the distance between the light and the bottom. The blue, imagine the blue is hitting particles in the air. So we're using this little visual trick. I can still see my objects floating, which is why we blocked them in with that dark green. So I'm kind of just now misting it out. Can't really see a lot of it. Maybe let's go a little bit harder in the paint down here. And now, go to this pink. Now we're gonna do the same thing just on the top, and we're gonna start on top. Make sure it's nice and even, short, quick presses on the nozzle. And as we move down further, we're gonna either make more distance from the canvas or we're gonna press less frequently. We're just creating a gradient. We're gonna get to a place where these two colors are mixing together. There we go. All right, so we've got our pink, we've got our blue. I'm gonna switch the nozzles on these cans. I'm gonna get rid of those, and I'm gonna switch them out for some skinny nozzles. Hopefully these are not too clogged up and they'll work. But I'm gonna use these nozzles to add some information to the side of this portrait. So it'll show that the light is hitting this object. It's like just some visual information that I want to give my viewer. Of course, that didn't work. All right, let's start with the blue. So right there, again, you'll be able to see these later on in the YouTube video. Giving an indication that there's some pieces of the face that are catching the light. We're gonna switch out this spray tip. We're gonna put that thin cap on the pink one, and we're gonna do the same thing again, adding some pink on the objects on the left and the right, so it appears that it's catching some of that light. And just very little. I'm using the spray, this thin cap, because it'll take less air and more paint. It restricts the air, so that way I don't have too much coming out when I don't want it to. Just kind of slightly. All right, I think that's good. Now, those shapes in the center, we're gonna turn those into silhouettes. If I put the black down first, I wouldn't be able to see them right now. So we're gonna turn those into silhouettes, which means we're gonna use black, and again, go over these objects so that we can see them. And then we're gonna add some little, I call them like magic tricks. This is like, it's not magic, but painting sometimes feels like magic. And that's why I love it. I love it. All right. So let's see there. I got this like little floating thing here. Let's go on this side so you can see. So I fade it out, and then I'm gonna put my little ring. Maybe it's like a Saturn type of thing, like rings around the planet. Let's see, we've got this like kind of fish thing floating. So I'm just turning it into a silhouette. And then we're gonna use the lights, the pink and blue lights, to really give them some silhouette shine, and it'll appear as if there's pink light and blue light shining down on this. So all right, we'll fill in this shape. Block it in if you want. Let's go back to that black. Okay, I'm just blocking it again. Going over the shapes that we already made. Turning these into silhouettes. It still amazes me too. What's crazy is this was a blank black canvas when I started, I don't know how long ago. I kind of lost track of time, but and now it's becoming something. It's becoming something meaningful to someone out there. This is actually for collectors, so this one's already pre-sold, spoken for. I just wanted to do it in front of you guys. I wanted to share this process with you. Even though I could have just done this alone in my studio, that's not as fun. So let's add one more floating thing here. But those of you who are artists out there that are watching this, whether you're taking tips or not, I am starting a program for artists to help you with your branding and your process for your output to the world. And I'm going to be teaching you the exact process that I use to get my art out to the world, the same process I use to build my art brand. And we're going to be launching that in the next couple days. Very excited about that. All right, we're just adding a silhouette. By the way, the program is really for artists who need help defining their brand. So these are artists who have maybe started your career already, but you're feeling stuck. And we want to give you those tools to help you create with confidence so that everything you create, whether it's for your live stream, whether it's alone in the studio, you feel confident about it making it out to the world, or even you using those files or the art for future income as well. So we'll share more about that in the next coming days. You can always DM me if you want to learn more about that as well. All right, back to the painting. Just gonna add a couple more lines here for this, the astronaut. Got his nose, maybe a brow, and then some hair. All right, like a quick little thing there, and he's got a helmet on. All right, I think it's enough information there to work with. So we've got our portrait split open. If you couldn't tell, it's Einstein, and I'm imagining what's happening inside of Einstein's head, in his portrait, because portraits, they really should tell more than just a face. Even the face should feel like they live some sort of journey, that the face should still speak something to us. I'm just taking it a step further. And all right, so we've got the pink coming down, the blue light coming up. Let's give you, the viewer, some more information to see that there's objects here in the center. What we're gonna do is take that pink, and on the top of every object that's floating, we're just gonna add pink on the pink side. So we'll literally start with just the pink first, and then we'll add some white to that as well, some highlights. So we got this little floating fish up here. And you could do this, you don't need to always paint or create this big. You could do this on a small scale. One of the ways I would learn how to create this with this black surface space is I would use pastels, and I would use like black paper just to learn the techniques of envisioning something on the black surface. All right, so we're just doing some highlights. I know this is super not entertaining, but it's just part of the process. And sometimes with art, I try to make the art process entertaining, but sometimes you just gotta be patient. And again, I'm sure there's like 2 people still watching this. Thank you to the 2 people still watching. Matter of fact, if there's only 2 people watching out there, why don't you just let me know where you're watching from? That'd be amazing. So when I take a break, I can shout you out. All right, we've got the pink down. Let's go a step further and add some white to that. We're gonna mix in the white with the pink just to give it a little bit more pop. Just so we know it's there, it's floating. It's hard to see it from the distance, but I imagine this later on when it becomes a print. Or imagine it later on when it's hanging in someone's home. I've got all these like little fun details that the collector is gonna see up close. All right, I think that's good right there. Let's switch over. We got the pink done. Now let's move to the blue. I'm gonna use a very light blue, just to show that there's light particles coming up and the light is catching on these objects. So we'll start with the blue. Maybe we'll go into the object a little bit, so it has a little bit of depth. We'll hit this little floating fish. All right, I need to go reload already. I'm already running out of paint. Switch sides so you guys can see. I'm also giving some indication of other objects on his pack or his back. I'm gonna go back to the blue, back to the objects. We're gonna continue adding the light that is being caught on the surface of these objects. Now I said earlier I wanted some evil eyes up here. I think I found the color. Let's do this lime green actually over here. I don't know if this will read from back there. And maybe I'll have to add like a glow to it or like a highlight, but I want to add these little sort of like, you know, this is inside of Einstein's mind, and who knows what is going on in there. I'm just using imagination, having fun with this process. All right, it's coming along. I like it. What do you guys think? Let me know below in the comments your thoughts about this process. In the meantime, let's keep adding some more. Let's kind of block in the silhouette of his hair. So I'm just turning the can sideways so it creates a hard edge on the hair. Kind of fill that in. We'll go to the other side. All right. You know, one thing I forgot was the collar on Einstein's, on his clothes. It's like such an insignificant little line, but it's still information. And I believe that all the information should be there that's important. All right, let's ditch that. It's my favorite part. It's time to throw around some paint. Now, believe it or not, there's a technique to this. So I start by dipping my hands in the paint, and then I don't go straight to the canvas to throw it. I go straight to my water. And I do that because it just kind of weighs the paint down and it gives me more control of where it's going to go. If I did not do this, it would kind of fly and fall. This way it helps me direct exactly where it goes. I also use the splatter to create balance on the surface. So if I feel like it's heavy on one side or I want to draw attention somewhere, I'll throw some paint there. All right, let's head over to the pink. Again, we're gonna go to the water, thin it out. Start throwing Again, we're gonna throw to create balance, to give it movement, to give it energy. I want it to feel like when someone's standing in front of this, that they feel the energy of just movement. Let's get some black. We'll go to the water it down. Again, the black is great because it just cuts in. It's just rising. Can also come in with my fingers to add some more shadows, some texture. Now what I usually do as I'm coming near the end of this painting, what I'll usually do is finish it and I'll add some details later on. All right, we gotta do the handprint. Let's get some blue. Come over here. Here we go. All right. All right, I hope you enjoyed today's painting. Of course, Einstein. There's a lot of things going on in that mind. If you enjoyed it or if you're enjoying these paintings, I just ask that you consider subscribing and also hit that notifications bell if you want to get updated anytime I post a new video, a podcast, or even if I go live on this channel. Also, check out these videos.